Welcome to Highway Diary. I'm your host, Eric Hollerbach. This is Highway Diary episode 440 with Jeff O'Toole. This podcast has been 5 years in the making. The former We Are Change Melbourne, Australia host and current youth teacher of the youth former teacher of the youth in Thailand, maybe now Laos, and Mr. Jeff O'Toole. He's helping people escape the tyranny of Melbourne, Australia.
Great introduction. Well said and accurate as well. Former We Are Change chapter leader in Melbourne, Australia. The group was dormant for a long time, and I took over for many years, exposing corruption on a grand scale. And we made a lot of progress in some of the toughest times in Australia, and all of the videos are still up on the channel for people to view. It's an honor to be here on the podcast, and delighted to be here.
Thank you, Jeff. We had a lot of scheduling conflicts. You contacted me years ago. I was supposed to be on We Are Change Melbourne. Being on the other side of the world, we're literally 12 hours away from each other right now. It's tough. It's 8 p.m. here in Texas and 8 a.m. in Laos. I never met the We Are Change founder, Luke Rudowski, but Klaus Schwab Jr. did. And he was very preoccupied on telling Luke Rudowski about his foreskin and the things he can hide in it. So I was just a fly on the wall for that conversation. How did you get affiliated with his network, We Are Change?
Good question. I was operating independently as a journalist, covering many breaking stories and community matters, highlighting injustices people had suffered, and, as I said, exposing corruption, whether it's police brutality, medical tyranny, pretty much a wide range of issues. And members of the public would contact me via email or other means and submit stories or matters that were very important that I should address. And it was successful for a number of years. And it was a privilege to be able to do that. And we really covered a lot there in Melbourne, Australia. So it was very good. I didn't have much affiliation with Luke Rudowski. He is very busy running the organisation, but I did have contact with Justin Roberts out of Florida. He's doing amazing work and right on the front line, covering all different topics. So we were in contact. We would collaborate from time to time. I had him on the podcast. So whenever there was a discussion that needed to be made between ourselves in the direction of We Are Change, I would be conversing with him primarily.
Did the We Are Change Melbourne chapter disband after you left, or was someone able to take the reins?
I rebranded the channel to Escape Melbourne, Australia, because during that time of the pandemic, I was really active and campaigning for freedom harder than I had ever been, turning up at injection sites, having victims that had been struck down through medical injuries that had taken place. I had doctors on the show that had been deregistered, giving speeches, boots on the ground, turning up at protests, really going hard. And as a result of that, I incurred 12 charges before the courts, 2 of which carried 5 years apiece. Impersonation of a government official. Now, if I had have gone down for those 2, I'd be looking at double digits in prison. And when it came down to it at the end, the support was very minimal, and I was really left in a very precarious position. So I single-handedly defended myself in court and beat all the charges. I walked away with a $500 fine, and I was very, very proud of myself to do that. But, reflecting on what took place, I realized to be effective, this battle, we need to rescue some of the people that are really suffering and focus and direct energy on relocating people to safe destinations. And that has been very promising at this point. So when the second wave of tyranny hit, like it is now, fuel crisis, and we have immigration problems, I have been focusing on, providing information, consultations, and getting people out of the danger zone and into safety.
Why did you brand yourself escaping Melbourne instead of escaping the West? I think the COVID-19 pandemic was a showcase that there is a secret government out there because, allegedly viruses travel at the speed of smell or sneezing, and simultaneously across the Commonwealth and every country with a Rothschild bank outpost, it seemed to have the same problem with the sniffles. Why are you so narrowly branded on people escaping Melbourne?
Well, that's a good question. Uh, Two reasons. First of all, it's a play on words from We Are Change Melbourne, Australia. So I sort of switched it so it's similar, so people can still see where the name change come from. So it's a play on words as well, and also focusing directly on my area first. But yes, to expand it out, that would be wise.
Your last tweet comes January 2021. You posted a YouTube video about COVID-19, which has since been deleted due to community guidelines. What do you remember about that? Was that when all your charges were coming up on you?
Possibly. I wasn't too active on Twitter, but I was mainly focusing on BitChute, Rumble. I was, hit with a lot of censorship, and that really slowed down the efforts. A lot of people had their channels deleted. What I would do when there was 2 strikes, I would slow down on the uploads, utilize other platforms until those strikes disappeared, and then I would recommence. But yes, that definitely threw a spanner in the works. It was very tactical, trying to use different platforms and still get that message out. But luckily, I still have that channel today, and what we've seen is a lot of channels were restored with many activists after the fact, so that was promising to see.
Well, yeah, they're either operating as a community library where they're just like a post board in Times in a city square where anybody could put a poster up, or they're a publisher, and if you're a publisher, then you're liable for all the content of all the creators. So, it seemed to me that YouTube was very adept at grabbing useful idiots to boost their channel so that inane nonsense would would cloud the feeds of everybody during that operation.
That's exactly right. And social media. There was I was being monitored by the Australian Federal Police. All my communications were being tapped into, and they even made an announcement on a television broadcast, even admitting this. So yes, it was very intrusive. I was being monitored heavily. The police were showing up at my address regularly. I was being followed. I couldn't go to the shops without being stalked and harassed. And it's very alarming. I recorded a lot of these interactions, walking through the main street of Melbourne, minding my own business. I was slammed onto the concrete, arrested, and just for basically uh, refusing an ID search. And there was no crime that had been committed, so it was an unlawful request to demand identification. And when I basically stipulated that, slammed on the concrete, lucky to actually walk away without broken ribs. The police brutality was horrendous. And yeah, I bared the brunt of a lot of that. And sadly, a lot of efforts uh, weren't quite appreciated as much as what they should have been. A lot of people become disheartened towards the end. There was a lot of corruption that took place, and yeah, right when at the heat of all this problems and what we've seen, there was a lot of infiltrators that came in to the whole stage, and what we've seen, people trying to censor speeches. It was very chaotic, and yeah, it was very sad to see veterans that had been in the community for 10 plus years sort of got sidelined, and a bunch of new faces came in pushing their own campaigns. And yeah, that was very disheartening to see.
The same exact thing happened to you in New Zealand, happened to my friend in Auckland, Vinny Eastwood, and his friend Billy TK had the same exact thing, but he unfortunately hired a bunch of lawyers, and it cost him 35 or 45 thousand dollars of debt. How did you defend yourself? Is there an Australian constitution? I thought that it was all kangaroo courts over there. How did you defend yourself?
Well, that's a good question. See, I there was lawyers that approached me, but they were demanding thousands of dollars, and even to write a letter for court, they wanted me to pay $800, and I simply I simply couldn't. I didn't have those funds. The donations were lacking, and I couldn't even afford legal consultation. That's why I became very bitter towards the end, because when I was up on 12 charges and very serious matters, I just didn't have the support that was critical at that point in time. There was one gentleman, he wrote out a whole big brief and statement for me, stipulating how this whole case was an injustice, and that was submitted to prosecution. And I believe that carried a lot of weight in the final decision. And when I spoke in front of the court, I kept adjourning the case out as far as I possibly could to try and prolong it, and hopefully they'd drop the matter. But yes, basically representing myself, looking at double digits, and I was very fortunate that the judge actually had some honour as well, and I managed to get a victory. And I was very lucky. But yes, many nights of lost sleep, and yeah, I think apart from my father who passed away, there was only two people that showed up to court, and yeah, it was very heartbreaking to see. In these matters, when you see the restrictions and the tyranny at such an alarming rate, it does bring out some of the best qualities in people, but it can also bring out the worst. We've seen a lot of people grandstanding, big egos. They were just trying to hustle for donations to feather their own nest, and the money wasn't being allocated to the fight in itself. So, yeah, it's easy to become disillusioned when you see that the corruption that was taking place in the truth community as well. And yeah, when you have veterans like myself and others that in critical stages weren't given the help and support, that was very, very sad to see.
Well, you're not alone in the fight against tyranny. I've said this before on my friend Charlie Robinson's Macroaggressions podcast, and people don't know about this, that in May 13th, 1985, the police of Philadelphia dropped a bomb on a residential building, that being 6221 Osage Avenue in West Philadelphia. 11 people were killed, including women, children. They hovered a helicopter and dropped a bomb like Wile E. Coyote onto a residential building in Philadelphia, May 13, 1985. The reason, the people installed a speakerphone, a speaker, a bullhorn in the side of this building, and they were telling people, hey man, they killed Malcolm X, they killed Martin Luther King, they sent our brothers and sisters to die in Vietnam, don't fall for this or that, as they were setting off the Gulf War. And so the police took a step. I don't know what judge signed a warrant to drop a bomb on a residential building, but that is how terrified the establishment is against dissenting voices. Now, a bunch of COVID people got shadow banned and this and that, and gang stalked by police and put trumped up charges on and used lawfare to try to and intimidate and squash people. But just, I think it's important to understand that in May 13th, 1985, Philadelphia police dropped a bomb on a building because they put on a speaker.
That just goes to show the extent that they will go to. There is no limit when it comes to silencing people. The evil has no bounds, and we've seen that in the past. That sort of goes along the same lines as Oklahoma with Timothy McVeigh, isn't it? It just goes to show who you're dealing with, homicidal maniacs, and they are relentless on pushing forward this new world order and the tyranny. And yeah, trying to hold these criminals accountable is a very difficult task. It can almost seem impossible at times.
Yeah, there might be more to that Oklahoma City federal bombing building thing. That may have been a false flag. I'm not sure about that. It seems obvious to me that you were disillusioned with the government in Australia. You fled at first to Thailand. You were teaching English there. So why Thailand was your first destination? And then how long did you struggle in Thailand? And then you moved to Laos. So just kind of put me through why Thailand and then how you ended up there.
Great question. So leading up to the move to ultimately sell everything and leave the country, during that whole pandemic period, while I was campaigning for freedom and trying to expose the injustices, I suffered a lot of personal tragedies during that time as well. I lost my mother. She passed away of cancer. And shortly after, my dog died, who I had since I was 18 years old. And then after that, not long after, my father died as well. So I lost both parents, my dog, and then I was left alone in a very dangerous suburb in Victoria where the crime was at an extreme rate. You couldn't even walk to the local shops without the threat of assault or some type of incident occurring. It was almost every second day there was some type of disaster or some type of activity that was threatening. So I did a lot of research how to rescue myself from this precarious position. Thankfully, YouTube and looking at others that have carved out a path for themselves. I realized a very smart way to go about this, to move abroad. You either have to be really successful on YouTube, churning out videos day in, day out, getting really good views and monetized channels, then that can be promising and quite profitable. Otherwise, there is an opportunity for teachers. We have whole classrooms in Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos full of students, but they have no teacher. And there is a path in place where you can do an online course and get your TEFL certificate. teaching English as a foreign language. And I highly recommend people to do this online course. And once that is achieved, you can, if you've got experience, and basically giving public speeches and teaching people about the tyranny and injustice, that is experience in itself. And I started tutoring students one-on-one, and then doing online uh, teaching, and that garnered more experience, and I was able to submit my resume to schools. And what I would do, when I arrived in Thailand, so I straight away, no parties, no drinking. I was straight to work, very determined, motivated, and where I would live off no more than 200 baht a day, which is less than 10 Australian dollars. And that was quite comfortable. I could do that. And just being out of the danger zone, I felt like a ton of weight had been lifted off me already. So then I was able to think clearly, and looking at jobs, video production, having this experience, 10 years in the field. I was fortunate enough, around this time last year, Songkran, it's Thailand's biggest water festival. I managed to pick up a job filming the festival and promoting a company, and they paid me a good amount of money to do so. And it was at a critical point because my financials were dwindling at that point, so it couldn't have come at a better time. So I picked up this contract with a company in Vietnam where I was filming and promoting some of their opportunities and showcasing what they had in store for people. Picked up some good work, and during that whole process, I managed to secure a position with a school in Nong Khai, which is northeast Thailand. And I have just finished my contract with that school, very promising. So I've been here 14 months. And it was the best decision I made, Eric, was to get out of that danger zone and try and better my life. And I haven't really looked back. And yeah, so happy that I did that. Very fortunate.
Well, I heard a rumor on Wikipedia, and tell me if I'm wrong, that Cambodia and Thailand they fight about their border. And is it? I know you find safety in Thailand, but is there any civil wars or border disputes or anything that made you feel uncomfortable going from one hornet's nest to another?
Well, that's a good question. Where I am in northeast Thailand, it borders Laos. But if you are in a location such as Sisaket, which is on the Cambodian border, then that got a little bit hostile, and some people did evacuate temporarily. But I have two American friends that were there at the time, and they didn't report any unusual activity, or they didn't seem scared or threatened for their lives. A married couple with children, so they lived pretty much in a safe, but it was okay. But yeah, so I didn't really experience any type of danger along those lines. But yes, there is tension with Thailand and Cambodia. They're currently building a big wall, a bit like what they're doing in the States there with Mexico. So I think maybe they took a page out of that book.
Well, that's interesting. It's just like you want to make sure that everyone who leaves Melbourne and comes to Laos or Thailand is not jumping themselves in another geopolitical nightmare. Um, but lovely. So,
Yeah, that's right. No, it's actually very.
so you're helping people of Australia with housing and try to give them some information that you wish you had day one moving to Thailand and Laos. Um, for American, like Americans don't. I know our feed is getting a little turbulent, but hopefully you can still hear me. If it gets worse, we should maybe refresh the feed, but I think it's working okay. Yeah, thumbs up.
I
Um,
can hear you crystal clear.
okay, lovely. So Americans don't know about Australia, but you guys have six states or six provinces. Queensland takes up 22.5% of the landmass, but in my opinion, it has constant natural disasters, particularly the province of Queensland in Australia. Just to name a few, August 16, 2025, there was a magnitude 5.6 earthquake that hit the town of uh, Kilikkivan. How do I say that? Kilikkivan? Do you know this town? Are you frozen? Oh dear.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Um, it doesn't really ring a bell, but yeah, there has been a lot of disasters. Some of them were perpetrated by the government. We had raging bushfires that took place, and that was all done and the Belt and Road Initiative. They burnt out along for other means and purposes. So a lot of that was done by design and to create artificial droughts. It's all to destabilize people. So yeah, a lot of the disasters I attribute to the government.
Yeah, October 26, 2025, they had a flood. And then again, November 5th to 18th, and again, November 20th to 25th. So you're saying it's the Belt and Road Initiative. They're trying to clear out residential housing and stuff to build a big road through Australia?
100%. That's what took place. And a lot of people have even alleged that, yeah, the floods as well, there was cloud seeding, there was weather manipulation involved. And it's all to destroy some of the small to medium businesses. There is multiple agendas at play here,
Yeah.
and yeah, sadly, the Australians are copying the full brunt of the tyranny, especially in Melbourne as well. It's like a test case. They're doing a beta test for the New World Order in Australia to see how people react, problem reaction solution. And yeah, it's a real test case. And I don't want to be a guinea pig for the New World Order anymore. So yeah, ultimately I made the escape. And that's exactly what I've been doing, providing people with information on visas, how to navigate these systems effectively, find accommodation and employment. The Australian media try and promote a narrative that, oh no, it's too difficult, and to leave your country it's not worth doing so, and you'll end up homeless, and fear mongering. They try and keep people trapped like that prison colony. They don't want people leaving. But we're starting to see more and more people look at other options and other alternatives, especially when your livelihood, your emotional well-being, and financial security is being threatened on a daily basis. It becomes to the point where how much can you take before you're going to break, and try and look for an out. And thankfully, I've been able to rescue myself and throw a lifeline out to some of the good-hearted Australians that really deserve it as well.
Yeah, I think that it's very obvious there is a social engineering class, and in structural engineering, for example, they test how many tons a bridge can bear before, and they will design a smaller miniature version of this bridge before they build the Golden Gate Bridge to make sure that it's safe and it can bear the weight of many trucks filled with heavy things going over it. And I think that the social engineers see how much tyranny a population will bear before they start fighting back. And so they realize, I believe, that if you attack the morale of a population from different vectors, you can demoralize them by giving the good jobs to people who are fresh off the boat. You can demoralize them by putting in uh, political candidates that clearly did not win the popular vote. You can demoralize them in several ways, and then you just sort of get used to the boot on the face, and then you can't even feel it anymore. You don't remember what the fresh smell of freedom smelled like, you know?
Exactly right. And then there's multiple layers of this tyranny. You also have controlled opposition that enter the ranks. They're following orders from higher powers, and they've got their own agenda that they're pushing to try and muddy the waters and spread misinformation and disinformation and several truths as well, trying to steer people in other directions. And yes, we see a lot of that. The actual, to a large degree, where people that have been around for well over a decade, that are actually established, have platforms, actually have a viewership of loyal followers, they were sort of cast aside and sort of silenced as well. So when there was a march, or when there was a gathering and there was speeches held, they were pushed to the side, and then they had security keeping a lot of veterans away from the stage as well, so they could really push that narrative. And people have done their homework after the fact, and they could see who they were linked in with.
So you were saying that are you a veteran yourself, and some of the veterans were being pushed aside at these protests?
Absolutely. So if you look at my channel, it dates back 10 years, and a lot of achievements covering many different uh, topics, addressing so much corruption. I was there in the original protest, the anti-vax. That was many years before this whole pandemic ever took place. So I was right there on the front line, doing interviews, talking to doctors, families who have injured children through medical tyranny. And yeah, right there on the front line many years ago. So when this whole pandemic hit, some of us that have been around for many years have proven experience exposing corruption. Now, a lot of us were sidelined. People with proven viewerships of thousands of people, and this was done deliberately. So when there was a demonstration or an event where there were thousands of people in attendance, a lot of the veterans were sidelined. Security was deployed to hold people at bay, while infiltrators and controlled opposition were given the spotlight, and then they were effectively able to push their own narrative. Several parts misinformation, several truths, and steer people in a whole different direction. And this was atrocious to see. Many people who had risked their life and liberty to help others weren't given the opportunity to really go out there and make a difference. And that was a horrible injustice that took place. So what I did was campaign independently. I had my own operations. I'd turn up at injection sites. I'd continue doing my podcasts, and I'd work within my own group and circles. So yeah, it was all fractured all of the whole movement, instead of everybody working together for the greater good, no, they didn't want that. So we've seen events held on different days, and yeah, the whole situation became a very big mess, Eric.
You're saying the veteran whistleblowers, the veteran activists, were pushed aside for charlatans to come in and steer the population's rightful anger into the wrong area as a well-known Hegelian dialectic Freemasonic tactic of crowd control and diversion.
Exactly right. Well said. That's an
Um,
accurate description of what took place.
what spiritual awakening have you had since living in the East? What life lessons? I mean, have you had time to slow down as you matriculate into Laos and Thailand and see like, oh, the West could use some life lessons from the East?
Yes, absolutely. Very good question. And we regularly have gatherings at temples, and that's a beautiful ceremony that we take part in here. Just the other day, I attended a very ancient temple and paid respect to all that is sacred and holy. They call it Tambun, and they believe that brings good luck, prosperity, and also if people have engaged in some type of sinful behavior, they can go to the temple and cleanse themselves of any wrongdoing. So I believe that is a very important practice that the Western societies can adopt. And just, yeah, treating people with kindness and compassion. I see that here so much. In this whole time I've been living in the villages of northeast Thailand, I haven't seen one fight. I haven't even seen any heated arguments between people. You can leave your keys in your motorcycle or car. There's no theft. Everybody respects each other. And if you respect freedom and you respect culture and traditions, then you can pretty much live your life unencumbered. Nobody will hassle you. The police are friendly as well. And that's what I noticed, the biggest difference when you're in Australia and you're having any interaction with police, you can see the hate, you can see the violence in their eyes. And when you come here, it's absolutely nothing like that. The authority figures, they're friendly. They say, Jaidi, kind heart. If you're not doing anything wrong, or if there has been no offence or no injured party, and if you're genuinely maybe perhaps sorry for any actions, or if you're honest and genuine, that goes a long way. And a lot of consideration is placed on that. For instance, I was riding through a village, Si Chiang Mai, no helmet, some money on the back, no license, no registration. I stopped at a checkpoint and smiled, and you do the Y, like hello, and they say, Bainai, where are you going? And I said, I like this place. It's very beautiful. I want to go for a walk and see this lovely place. It's very nice. And they smile and they said, okay, go on. And I've picked up Thai. I can speak Thai pretty good now. So I was able to have a conversation using Thai language, smile, and yeah, the goodness of their heart. They said, no, don't worry, keep going. Everything's fine. So, I mean, the safety, it's just such a beautiful place. You can walk at night. You can go to the shops at 1 or 2 in the morning, and you don't have to worry about being attacked or robbed. I could never go back to Australia, and if I did, I would be very reluctant to do so. After experiencing the beauty of this country and Laos as well, yeah, I could never go back to Australia. It's unlivable. It's not practical to go back there. The cost of living as well. I mean, I can talk for an hour or two on just how it's uninhabitable. You can't live in Australia anymore. That's why I'm throwing out that lifeline to people, because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, and I think there's a big trap in the West, particularly for doctors. So if they made wrong decisions during COVID, I have some empathy for doctors making the wrong decisions. They get a big house with a big mortgage. Their salary is 600,000. Their house is 2.3 million plus the property tax. Then of course their children have to go to um private school. That's the bare minimum. Then we need 2 vacations a year. That's the bare minimum. I mean, you're a doctor, for Christ's sake, and you pile more and more and more obligations onto your monthly nut. And then when the establishment says jump, and your job is to go through all of the literature, make sure that your patients have proper informed consent. I always say that they test Volkswagens for 10 years at crash test sites, beta testing the airbags from every which way before they will put an automobile on the road, but yet they rush to market an experimental medical intervention, which, by the way, breaks every single Nuremberg code, especially Nuremberg Code 1. You cannot coerce a population to take an experimental medical intervention. And Satan, Klaus Schwab, Anthony Fauci, Satan said, how can we get them to do exactly that? How can we get them to take an experimental medical intervention? Because there's too many of them. And, in order to appease our sky god lizard, shape-shifting reptile, we have
That's
to
right.
maybe thin the herd a little bit. So how can we get them to do exactly what we said was a big no-no? And the one guy on planet Earth that caught wind of this was a guy called Dr. Rainer Fulmick. He was gathering evidence starting Nuremberg 2.0. He's been in a Berlin jail for 3 years now, 2 years now. He was kidnapped, putting evidence together from all of his whistleblowers, doctors, and experts, with the last remaining bits of integrity intact. And, that's what happened. And so they were terrified of that, and everyone who would amplify this message of what they did. Now they say, well, we had an emergency use authorization. The problem and the caveat was you can only have an emergency use for an experimental medical intervention if there are no therapeutics. That's why they went after ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine so thoroughly, because if those are a therapeutic out there, then they can't have everyone drink the Kool-Aid for Fauci.
Yes, exactly right. It's very calculated what was implemented, and methodical, the way they controlled this whole pandemic and what they done. And you mentioned doctors. Yes, when they do all their university, their studies, and then they're put in a position where their morals are being challenged, and they're being threatened to be deregistered if they don't toe that line with big pharma. And then they have the mainstream media pushing the propaganda relentlessly as well. And there's no informed consent, and people are being struck down left, right, and centre. And it's unconscionable to see this and not take any action. And yeah, they're being silenced. I don't know how many of these general practitioners would sleep at night after what's been carried out. And I guess they would just say plausible deniability. Well, they didn't know what was taking place, just to try and calm themselves. But yeah, it's atrocious for people that you put immense amounts of trust in, your family doctor, and you expect to get the best advice from them, and it just goes to show they haven't got your best interests at heart. It's very scary. So, yeah, people looked at alternative remedies, ivermectin, that's right. And you can see what they done, where they closed down the gyms and they kept all the uh, liquor stores open, fast food outlets. You can see it wasn't in the best interests of people's health and well-being, not at all. It's to destabilize, and when people are sick, that's a good way to control the population. And yes, they've figured this out. So what we did was turn up at the hubs, at the injection sites, and hand out information to people before they went and got jabbed. And we turned away so many from that facility and saving lives. So I think that was an effective way. Turn up at the sites, and but yeah, the police very heavy-handed, very heavy-handed. What we've seen here.
Your little catcher in the rye, catching people running through rye fields without jumping off a cliff at the end. Um, do you miss creature comforts of Australia? It's not all jabs and tyranny. I mean, there is air conditioning and, things, creature comforts, anything.
No, what do I miss about Australia? I don't really miss anything. I mean, they do have a good. Well, I'll name one. They do have a good. They do have free healthcare, right? But even the healthcare is questionable in itself. But let's say if you break your leg, or some sort of immediate surgery, maybe stitches might be required, or there are some medical issues that the healthcare system might be able to look after. But in saying that, I'm quite healthy. I haven't needed to see a doctor or go to a hospital, so it's been a non-issue. So there's nothing that I really miss. But there are sort of systems in place where there is free food for people in Australia. The charity organisations do give out food hampers, meal vouchers. They are generous with that, but then again, the food is really cheap here, so I don't have that issue either. So that's not really a problem. But I mean, there are positives, like that's right. And let's say you rent. If you're in Australia and you're struggling to pay rent, you can go to a charitable organisation and they'll even pay a month's rent for you. So, I mean, there are sort of systems in place there to help people that are struggling at the bottom of society. But I'm living abroad. I'm working every day. I don't have any problems like that. I don't need to rely on the government to protect and care for me. But I mean, it is nice to know that they do have charity organisations feeding the needy and providing monetary assistance to pay bills. I mean, that's a positive. But that's why your taxes are so high. See, so in turn, you're paying a lot of money for simple things that are relatively inexpensive. You're paying high taxes to have that luxury. So I'd rather pay less tax and support myself than rely on a government that is criminal anyway.
Yeah, and plus, you have a lot of wildlife in Australia. Like, for example, if you get hit by somebody else in a car, you can get their license plate, get their driver's insurance and stuff like that. And then, you can use that billable entity for your healthcare. But if you're in the bush and you get boxed up by a kangaroo, they don't tend to have the same insurance benefits, or the license plates. And if you get your leg bitten by a shark, it's very difficult to go to the shark's employer or get shark insurance. And he's gonna pretend to that he never met you and all that stuff if he goes to court with you, and so he could just claim that he bit a seal and not you, so it's good that you do have these these societal protections. You mentioned going to a temple, and there's a big polytheism. Now, I grew up kind of Catholic, and I did get some benefit from it. I'm very prudish, and I don't cheat on girlfriends, although they tend to do that to me here in the States. But as far as religion, I did when I had an all is lost moment. I lost my job, I lost my girlfriend, my dog didn't die like you. But I was balding too. I was terribly insecure. And I joined a Thai boxing club, started doing Muay Thai twice a day, every day for a whole summer. And every before and after class, we would pray to Father Muay Thai. And after a few months of this practice, the spirit of kicking ass and fucking somebody up with Muay Thai was, that I think there is a spiritual aspect, because these are ancient moves. Nothing, you're not learning any new technique under the sun. It's all Muay Thai kickboxing, even advanced techniques like spinning back kicks and spinning elbows and spinning back fists, and it's all Muay Thai. And I felt like there was an element when I practiced all these moves over and over and drilled them, that then there was this spiritual aspect to it as well. Have you done any Thai boxing, and how would you describe the polytheism as a religious kind of thing?
Well said. It's all about channeling and directing energy, isn't it? A lot of martial arts and being able to, control oneself, self-discipline, very important. And it's character building. That's right. And a lot of energy, instead of being misdirected, if you channel it into something positive like Muay Thai. Yeah, I've done a bit of kickboxing, not so much here in Thailand. I've mainly been focusing on more academics, learning the language, learning the culture, and learning the craft of teaching in classrooms. That's where I've been focusing 100% on, because that's what's going to carry me forward in future. And, there's not many fights here. Nobody really gets into fights. So it's not 100% practical to be studying those disciplines and arts at this point in time, but for a hobby, it's brilliant, and it's very good for fitness and health. That's right. And I enjoy that as well. I like to do, it's so hot here, so I like to do a lot of swimming. And it's, very important to have hobbies when you're living abroad in different destinations. We see a lot of people can fall into traps where they drink too much, they get involved in a lifestyle of fun and just going out and partying, which can be detrimental, and it's not good in the long term. So being able to immerse yourself in the culture, learn, study, and live a happy, productive life, that is key to living here long term.
Mm. So how do you feel about the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth in general? I mean, the sun never sets on the British Empire. They've started arresting people for social media posts to beta test that tyranny in the UK. And if you listen to Tommy Robinson, I think he's really onto something, where they'll arrest an old pensioner, pension receiver, and harass them for a social media post. And meanwhile, there are gangs of immigrants, and rape is up 3,000% in certain neighborhoods. So they're trying to, pacify, stamp down any sort of harsh criticism of the government while they are engaged in horrible policies. They're pooling resources to enable Prince Andrew for years, visiting his island, consolidating the media into propaganda centers. And by the way, Prince Andrew, they took his medals and his top hat with the spinny wheel on top, but they just put him in Belmore Castle. He's not like excommunicated. He still has servants. He doesn't even have to push the shit out of his ass. He sits on the toilet, and the servants full the poo. So
Yeah,
don't feel bad for Prince Andrew,
shocking,
and
isn't
don't
it?
think he's been excommunicated. Every meal is still on the taxpayer dime in the UK. But what do you think? I may have alluded to my feelings of the Commonwealth, particularly the British royal family. But how do you feel about him?
Yes, well, you see, it appears that they're above the law, doesn't it? And all the information that's been brought forward, yeah, they just seem to go unpunished. And I can visualize these secret meetings, these Freemasonic gatherings where they must just sit around and laugh and look at the look at some of the proletariat. They look at the people, the lower class, the peasants, and they just have a laugh at our expense while they let the immigrants come through. The crime rate escalates. They go and harass and target elderly citizens. They want to keep pushing the public to see how far they can get away with, and it's disgusting. It ties in like Jimmy Savile. You look at all of that; they're a class in themselves, and it just goes to show, you can expose them, and there's so much information that's being brought to light, but they're still free to roam and carry out these atrocities. And you look at all the children that go missing each year, and it's blatantly obvious, and all the secret symbols, the symbology that's used, the coded numerology, the 33. They really push this so hard. We see celebrities doing the hand over the one eye. I mean, it's blatantly obvious now. You'd have to be living under a rock to not notice what's going on, and I think that gives them even more power, that they're getting away with it. So yeah, and it can be very toxic when you're studying this day in and day out, and you think how I'm witnessing my fellow countrymen being punished while these horrible people are getting away with such evil crimes. It's horrendous to see, and all these protection orders that are put in place and suppression orders to protect these horrible monsters. It's terrible. That's why I'm so much happier here in Thailand and Laos. I'm trying to put a lot of that behind me, and try and it's just try and forget about a lot of that to an extent. I've done my part. I feel like I've really served my country the best of my ability, and now it's time to focus on a brighter future and try and salvage whatever happiness we can.
Yeah, man. You don't you're not a man to make excuses. You're like, hey, if I'm in the wrong place, let me change location. Now, there is a lot of unchecked immigration in the Commonwealth, illegal immigrants coming through. Were you a legal immigrant to Thailand and Laos, and how did you go through that process? And I'm imagining your brand Escaping Melbourne is uh Escape Melbourne, Australia is teaching people how to legally immigrate. So
That's
any
exactly
any
right.
any tips for people that are thinking about like, hey, I'm in debt more and more each month. Maybe I should get out of here.
Brilliant. So what I did, I sold everything I had: my car, electronics, even my camera that I used for Are Change Melbourne. I sold that, and I left. And you'd be surprised. I left Australia, and I only had 3,800 Australian dollars. So I hear a lot of excuses from people. I haven't got the money to go and live overseas. I haven't got the money to do any of this. And there is no merit to that excuse. So $3,800. And what I did, I allocated that. I picked a destination that was safe, where I could get a long-term rental. And that's very achievable to do. So I turned up, I got a cheap motel for 1,000 baht a night once I reached a destination called Hua Hin, which is predominantly an older group and a young, successful group of people foreigners that go there. So it was I was automatically linked in with some very high achievers who I started working with just by networking, a lot of Americans. So we started making videos, and I was able to get a line of income coming through. But what I did, I secured a long-term rental, and it only cost me about 200 to 300 Australian dollars per month for a lovely condo. And while I was in that condo, I would just sit in there in the air conditioning, just going looking for jobs, applying for job after job, and digital nomad work. That is legal. You can do that. YouTube and video production. That's how a lot of people live and work by the pool in Bali or some remote island in the Philippines. So I was able to do that for a significant amount of time. That kept me afloat and sticking to a strict budget. So I had that. I came on a tourist visa. And then when I managed to secure a position with a high school and I became a computer science, maths, and English teacher, then I secured a non-B visa. And that was the key. But I did have help from people here. I was already established by that time. So, yeah, I secured the right visa, had accommodation, and a couple of different income streams. So, and I basically hit the ground running because there was a lot of planning and preparation involved. I spent 6 months in Australia before I moved, just studying every day. How can I make this work? How can this be feasible? And, that's what they say. If you don't, you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And the planning was key. So, yes, very good. And all of these obstacles you can avoid by taking advantage of the opportunity that I'm offering currently through my channel and other platforms, helping people relocate. So, yeah, there's a special promotion now. I'm offering consultations via Zoom, and you too can escape the danger zone and relocate to paradise.
Escape Melbourne, Australia. This is Mr. Jeffrey O'Toole. This is Highway Diary episode 440. Thanks for doing this, man. We've had a little bit of a contentious relationship as we've had a lot of scheduling conflicts and stuff, but I'm kind of I'm really glad that we connected in a more positive way than bitching on each other.
So
For schedule reasons.
I've had a lot of personal tragedies. I've suffered a lot of horrendous experiences. And this is the first podcast I've done in 2 years, maybe over 2 years. So it's an honor to be here. And time zone conflicts, we got there in the end, which is most important. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a privilege to be able to share my experiences, what I went through, and have such a wonderful platform such as yours to be able to do that. So once again, very much appreciated. And I look forward to talking again in future. Continued success with all you're doing. Your comedy work is outstanding. I've been watching. You're definitely making waves over there and very popular over there in Austin, Texas. So brilliant work, Eric. I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks, Mr. Jeff O'Toole. I hope do you know Vinny Eastwood? Do you know my?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You're friends with him?
Yeah, he's in New Zealand, like you said, and and Billy Timahika. They really got punished to a severe extent. Yeah, I'd almost go as far as saying the government might have even punished him even a lot, probably even more worse than me. So, I mean, he really copped it as well. I mean, we all suffered horribly, but yeah, he really, that was brutal, the way he was attacked by his government.
He's a friend of mine. Maybe he'll end up in Laos like you one day.
Yes, well, I mean, it's difficult for some that have families, and for them to relocate, that can be a bit more difficult, but certainly not impossible.
Yeah, he's got to charter a plane with multiple baby mamas. Anyway, Jeff O'Teal, you're a lovely person. We'll catch up soon, okay?
Likewise, thank you very much. Take
All
care.
right, buddy. This has been Highway Diary, episode 440. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.